Mm.
Okay.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Conscious Health Podcast with my co host, David Ortega. And today we have an incredible special guest, Jamie Voltz, and she's going to be talking to us about where are we? Didn't put that in, the power of knowing your spiritual identity. So, Jamie, and I apologize if I say this wrong, you're going to have to repeat it so that we can hear, because I believe in the power of words, right? Because they hold a certain frequency. And I'd like you to repeat it, but I'd like to try and honor you by trying to just to do your your bio. So Jamie Lee Voltz, so she's Agawat Sen, and then my Ungan is Shadow Wolf, and she is from the Wolf Clan, and she's a helper at Turtle Lodge in Sagin First Nations, Manitoba, Canada, and she's Métis, and through her father, and has a Ukrainian and Irish ancestry through her mother, which I love ancestral history. So I can't wait to find out more about you as well. So, yes, let us know. Tell us a little bit about your journey and really setting upon your path in really discovering your spiritual identity and how it supported your health.
For sure. Buju, Anin, Dinewe Maganiduk, Agawabasan, Maangan, Indigenous, Maangan Doram, Wabshke, Maangan Nogichita, Wabshke, Megaze, Indigenous. Hello, my dear relatives. I'm very happy to be here talking to you today. My spirit name is Shadow Wolf. I'm from the Wolf Clan, and I'm a white wolf warrior. I come from the Métis Nation. That's my Indigenous ancestry through my father. And the Métis, it's like a mixing of Indigenous and non-Indigenous cultures upon contact. So it has a lot of Cree, there was a lot of Cree French mixing upon contact, and also Scottish French a little less, but not a lot of people know that. But they're in the plains. They were in Manitoba, Alberta, Saskatchewan, even down into Montana. I have ancestors, my Indigenous ancestors from all over. And then on my mom's side, Irish and Ukrainian and a little bit of Russian ancestry too. So I'm kind of like a mixed bag of a lot of different spiritual helpers from a lot of different places and a lot of marginalized peoples that I'm trying to like do the best to heal and reclaim that in a good way, like not just the trauma, but all the spiritual gifts of all my ancestors. I grew up really disconnected from my spirit. Not really like knowing my roots, but not the history behind it. And there's reasons for that. And when I got into my spiritual journey about 9 years ago, learning my identity, that's when I found my purpose, and a lot of my that's where my healing journey really began, because I had a lot of hurt. Like I didn't even know what holistic healing was. I was very driven by the mind, and then finally I got into my spirit, and that's when that was like the birth of my healing journey, I would say.
Mm.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think that, and I love that, because when we start to remember that we're more than just our circumstances, that we are really consciousness, or like not chaos, although there is chaos because there's growth in that as well. Our body starts kind of living, or releasing those constraints, and
Mhm.
that part of that spiritual awareness actually calms our the parasympathetic nervous system. So it starts to bring in that calm, and then it's just like beautiful how it starts to, like, that healing process starts to happen, and things just start to flow, and we get to understand who we are and why we're here, right? It's
Mhm.
quite an incredible journey. What was the hardest thing for you when you started?
Mm.
Uh, I think it's just the the remembering what I missed, like the not knowing, that disconnection.
Okay.
when I grew up, I I identified as Ojibwe and Native, and my dad left his community when he was really small, and he suffered a lot of abuse, and so he would talk about it, and I knew I had like the blood of the original people in me, but when I was little, there was a lot of shame because the relationship with my father was very fractured. I wasn't proud to be who I was, and I grew up like very whitewashed, I would say, but even my my European ancestry was like really fractured, and there was a lot of hurt and trauma and alcoholism. So I guess just that feeling of being lost, and then once I started, it was like you really realize how much work you have to do, and it's hard work, and I feel like that's why it's hard for a lot of people to start that healing journey. It doesn't matter what your background is, because we live in such a dysfunctional world that's disconnected from spirit, and it takes a lot of courage and a lot of humility in who you are and forgiveness to really start that journey even. And I think that was the hardest part, just maybe feeling overwhelmed with that. And it's just a lifetime journey, like healing all aspects holistically of yourself and your bloodline, and connecting to your spirit. Like you have to do it all the time if you're really committed to it. So yeah.
I can relate to many of the things that you described because, despite not being from an indigenous tribe or not knowing that I am, because probably I am a few generations ago, uh, just discovering how damaged you can be by your two generations behind you, that's enough to deal with your shadows, to deal with the forgiveness. And also, I had a fractured relationship with my father that I had to fix in the best way possible for me, because when you have a relationship, you know you can do everything to fix it. You can do your part, but if the other person is not open to do something, so the relationship is gonna be fractured anyway. So what I did is just that work that you are describing, and discovering a lot of things, that why I was stepping on the same patterns and doing many things that were also damaging my own relationships. So what is intriguing is, what was the first step that you took to go into that world, or what was the step that threw you into finding out?
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Like when I look back on how the spirit planned everything, because I know it was totally guided by the spirit. And I think it was Christmas 2016 or 2017. I can't remember. But my father, he gifted me a Thunderbird blanket. And it was from Six Nations, because I grew up near there, even though I'm not from there. But he went there and he got it to me for me for Christmas, and he gave it to me. And it's like that was really, when I look back, that gift from my father was like a spiritual gift that opened the door for that healing, for me to like go to ceremonies and learn about who I am and embrace that part of me, and it also opened the door to healing that relationship with my father. And I was going through a lot. I was really anxious all the time. I was very lost in terms of my spiritual purpose, and even my relationship with my father was just awful at that time because I didn't understand what he went through. So it's really beautiful. That's what really started my healing journey. And like the Thunderbird has such a huge meaning to me spiritually, and it's one of my helpers now. I know that like the Thunderbird is one of my helpers, and it's cleansing and it's new beginnings. And now that I know all this, the teachings of the Thunderbird, it's like it's so amazing how that is what got everything started for me.
That
Beautiful.
is incredible. And there's even that, not only the symbolism on the blanket, but being a blanket within itself and bringing warmth and comfort,
Well,
right?
and also like when I was a child, my father took a blanket from me, and
Oh,
he like my childhood blanket to like punish me, and it was a huge childhood
okay.
trauma moment for me. So like to for that to come full circle in so many beautiful ways is just amazing, and that's what really makes me believe in the power of spirit, because like we couldn't have planned all this. It was already planned, everything that happened. So yeah.
Abs- I agree with you. And like working in the Akashic records, it gives you the why, but there's so many ways to get to the why, right? I think ceremony is such an important part. Can you tell the listeners a little bit more about the importance of ceremony?
Yes, it's hard to put into words, like it's hard to intellectualize
Yeah.
spirit when it's something that really is like felt. But for me, ceremony is your connection to the creator, your connection to spirit, your connection to all your helpers. And it's the way that we can get those connections. It can be big, it can be small, it can be lighting our sacred medicines, lighting a smudge, putting our tobacco offering down, which is our first medicine. And when you want anything, you give tobacco. So yeah, or it can be something as like a 4-day fast. It's just like connecting to the creator, how I would describe it. It's the tool we were given to connect and pray. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, and getting to know your spiritual identity, I think it carries that awareness that your energy field extends beyond this field, beyond this lifetime, and into others as well. And I think, having been witnessed or being part of a few ceremonies or in different ways, in different places, it allows us to release those unconscious patterns or unconscious beliefs and those traumas, and helps us to understand. But I think it's about being in that frequency and having permission
Hmm.
to be there. And I think I think fasting is an incredible rebooting physically, mentally, emotionally. Like a lot of the times, even
100%.
before I knew about fasting, my guides were like, you need to, or they were sending people like, this person got diagnosed with diabetes or whatever it was. And they're like, they need to go fast for 3 days. And I'm like, what is that? And then
Hmm.
until eventually I met like Diane, and I met Liz, and they're like running fasting ceremonies, and I was like, okay, that makes so much sense, right? So
Hmm.
that's incredible how that gets done. Yeah, it's like your body no longer needs to carry that trauma sometimes once it's gone through that frequency, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's a huge release. Yeah. Hmm.
And it's really amazing how you mention fasting and these spiritual practices, because these rituals come from many thousands of years ago,
Hmm.
and all of the communities, indigenous, Greeks, India and China, all of the cultures, every time that they perform a ritual or a big ceremony where they have to learn something, they needed to be fasted. In fact,
Hmm.
we did an episode because I am now promoting this holistic academy, and we are doing episodes about the history of many ancient cultures and how health has evolved into a holistic concept. And they talk about Plato and Aristotle, how they ask their students to be fasted, not with food, not with anything in the stomach, so that they can say they could absorb the knowledge that they were going to be given. So
Hmm.
it was, even in education, it was a ritual that nowadays, when we see what has happened with education, we really could cry.
Yeah.
But fasting is so important. I know when I'm holding space for big groups, or if I'm doing back-to-back sessions, I have absolutely no appetite. None. Because the body can't digest the frequency of what you've eaten, or you eat really, really light and still run the energetic frequency and still connect, because I don't know. What is the reason? For me, I feel it. Like, I'm just like, yeah, I'm too heavy. I'm too I'm too grounded. It's good to be grounded always, but energetically be open. Why is it that we fast?
For me, I would say it's to connect to your spirit. Like our spirits were brought into the physical body. And when we refrain from doing that, we have such a more powerful connection to spirit. It heightens your spiritual connection. It helps you to get those messages, because you're not getting especially nowadays with all the chemicals and stuff, there's such an obstacle for us to feeling like spiritual, healthy beings, because we are humans, but we're spiritual beings living a human experience, first of all. So when we fast, it really heightens our original spirit that was lowered down to the earth. That's why I think it makes it so much easier for us to connect and receive the visions and dreams and know what to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And talking about the part of the, let's say, the work of the body and why it interferes is just because we really demand a lot of energy from digestion. And while you are digesting all of that food, many of the sugars, many of the chemicals that come inside of that food interfere with your mental processes. So you are not paying attention, you are more distracted, you are not in a focused mindset. So while you are doing any spiritual teaching or even an intellectual teaching, you need your mind to be clear, to be without any interference. It's just like when your Wi-Fi starts not working and just freezing. I think that's the same analogy that we could think of. When we have too much food, our brain starts having bad connection.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So besides it bringing in an extra amount of healing, there's also the knowledge that gets transferred, right? And it opens up to, I think, our innate kind of like intuitive abilities, which are our first abilities, right? And it's beautiful, because if we're open to understanding, and that's the thing, I think it's brave to do the work, to do the healing, because it's not for the faint-hearted. To have that mirror and look at your shadows, look at what we think, what we've been trying to hide and suppress, even in front of ourselves, to bring that out takes a lot of courage. But I think and like you say, Jamie, it's an ongoing, I don't think we ever stop healing. I don't think we ever stop growing. I don't think we ever stop learning either. But I think that's the journey of becoming conscious. And the beautiful thing about doing the work is that, for me, I also believe that when we heal ourselves, we're healing the 7 generations before, the generations to come, and we're changing the collective consciousness. So when we change, and it's not even needing to change other people, just changing ourselves, really does change the world because of that ripple effect.
Absolutely.
Right? Which is incredible. And then in ceremony or in ritual, when we all come together with the same intention, I think that amplifies everything else. And then if you start working with the elements and sound, like fire, water, air, whatever, plus whatever sounds you're using, it's incredible how all of that energy amplifies. And it's amazing when the world goes into crisis, how people just all get together. I know, people start meditation groups or whatever it is, or prayers or whatever it is, that intention to actually start to heal the planet or, heal the collective is super important. So I think, it's incredible. Just doing the work. How often do you have ceremonies for different times of the year and different things, right?
Yeah, we have seasonal ceremonies. There's the full moon ceremony every month that we do. We have like the winter is not a time where you usually do as many ceremonies, like the major ones anyway. Of course, like life is a ceremony, and every day we can pray and do things to keep that connection to the spirit and the land. But in the winter, we have the winter solstice ceremonies, and then we have the Windigo Con, the contrary ceremony that's not around a full moon. And then we have like a lot of ceremonies in the summer. That's when most of us are, because like the elders share that we follow the natural rhythm of the moon and the earth, and winter is a time to rest traditionally and do storytelling. And like spring and summer is when you're really doing a lot of the ceremonies.
Beautiful.
That's amazing. Just how tuned in you are when you get into those ceremonies and in contact, as you say, with your spirit and with that higher energy that you can explain,
Mhm.
but it heals you from inside. And I was wondering, and I'm going to ask more about the collective healing because I'm curious about that. But how has your identity changed since you were in contact with these ceremonies? What can you say about your identity?
Well, I know who I am now, and I know what my purpose on the earth is. I know why my spirit chose to come here. It makes it a lot easier to deal with the challenges that we face in this earth, because if you know what you're supposed to be doing, it even like gives you, when you're going through challenges, it gives you perspective on I need to face this challenge
Mm.
to achieve what I need to achieve. Obviously it's still difficult to be human, but it just helps to keep things in perspective and to keep you balanced. Like my life has changed totally. I didn't ever think I would be where I am, but I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and it really helps me to follow the dreams and follow the messages I get from spirit to know what I'm supposed to be doing next. And I don't question it anymore. Like I'm at that point in the journey. I'm like, I had this dream, I'm gonna do that. I know there's a reason behind it, or I faced this recently and I can see I needed to face this to get where I'm going now. And that's how it's changed my just being sure in what I need to do, and following spirit. It really has made my life a lot simpler in that way, because I have to do the work, but I know that I'm being guided, and I'm not thinking of these things all on my own. It's like there's something higher that's helping me to do what I need to do.
Mm. Beautiful. And yes, I think that that's what happens when you stop arguing with the things that you should be doing, and you know that it's for your own benefit, and you know that there is a higher purpose that you need to fulfill so that
Mhm.
your soul and your spirit goes in another level, let's say. And this is just amazing because I guess I'm just guessing. I need you to confirm that your lifestyle habits have changed also.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I don't drink alcohol or do drugs, because it's part of my way of staying connected to my spirit. And I never had like a addiction issue with alcohol or drugs, but it just like it blocks spirit from coming in, right? So that's one way I committed myself. When people ask like, "Oh, what do you do for fun?" I'm like, ceremony. Like that. That's my whole social setting, and so it's changed a lot of my relationships, and even like my personal family relationships. People don't always understand why I have to do what I have to do, so it does require a lot of courage and a lot of sacrifice. That's part of it. So yeah, like my lifestyle is more simple, I would say, in some ways, but also a lot really challenging in and new ways. So it all balances out.
That's beautiful. And talk about our family not understanding what we need to do. Sometimes we don't even understand why we have to be where we have to
Yeah.
be, but we know that we have to be there, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, what do you mean you're going there? Why are you going there? I don't know. I just have to be there. But like, we start looking at the 3D kind of like reasons as to why do you have to go to it? It's dangerous out there. I'm like, really? What? Where? It's
Yeah.
almost kind of like, I just know I have to be there. And I do that quite often, but it gets
Same.
quite scary sometimes, right? Like somebody will be like, hey, do you want to do this? And you're like, yes. And then I'm like, what does that mean?
Sometimes I'm even like, my head's like, no, but my spirit's like, yes. So I'm like, Jesus, yeah. Like, I don't want to, but yeah. Yeah.
And that's the way it is in terms of your lifestyle. When you change it, when you start becoming more, let's say, attuned to your own messages, to your own body, and you let that higher consciousness to embody yourself and to protect you, you don't even doubt about the things. You are just determined and disciplined, and you say, well, I know that I'm going to lose many people on the way,
Yeah.
but I know that the people that are going to be now with me, they are going to create a new community where I can be welcome, and I can be also, let's say, transformed, no, or transmuted in terms of the energy that you receive from other people, no?
Yeah.
And that's something that maybe you can also tell us, although it's going to be difficult to explain, but do your best to do. What do you feel in terms of your body when you are in these ceremonies? Describe sensations or things that happen within you.
Um, hmm. Well, I can talk about some things like we do doctoring healing ceremonies at the Turtle Lodge, and that involves those of us who we have like that gift of helping to heal, and we have our instruments. We use our eagle fans and our rattles, our shakers, and we invite people to come in, and they bring tobacco, and they know they're coming for a healing ceremony, and just to be like that conduit. Like, obviously you have to disconnect from your mind, and it's like an out of body experience. You just have to like go with the flow of the energies that are coming in the room, and the things that you see, and even like the energies that come inside of you. Like, I've had experiences of different spirits like coming into my body, and it's like not something you can really describe, but it's real. Yeah. But it's definitely an out of body experience, and to be that instrument. And I know it's not me doing it. It's just like the gifts that are coming through from the spirits.
Mm.
And to
Well,
be that vessel, I suppose, it takes a lot, right? And
Mhm.
one has to completely step out of our ego in
Yeah.
order to be able to do that as well, because when that starts to happen, our mind starts to go, right? And all sorts of things. And in that space of acceptance, I suppose, or surrender to, and I think that's one of the ultimate acts of being of service,
Yeah, for sure.
right, is to allow that energy or those energies to flow through you, right, which is quite incredible. And yeah, it's and then to see the work afterwards, right, to see the results afterwards is also quite incredible too.
And I think that's why it's so important, like you said, to let go of the ego, because I see a lot of spiritual people who are so gifted, but they don't do that ego work, and you see how it like can get them in trouble, or on go down a path that's like maybe not the greatest use of their gifts. So I think for me, like seeing that and learning from that has been so important, and even just to acknowledge that is like a lot of people can't even acknowledge that because they don't want to let go of their ego, right? So Yeah.
I think that's, you're absolutely right. For people that do spiritual work constantly, I think our biggest Achilles heel is our ego.
Hmm.
It absolutely is. It's one of those things that we need to remind ourselves it's not about me.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah. But it's true. It is. That's the biggest thing. It's vanity. It's the ego. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. It's always good to have somebody near you that goes, "Hey, what did you just say?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to check in so
Yeah.
that you are with
Yeah.
your feet on the ground, and then
Yeah, to ground you so you're not just flying with the eagles. You got to be
yeah,
Absolutely.
grounded. Yeah.
it is. And actually that's what separates us. And there was an explanation or a phrase that these authors, I think, I don't know if it was Eckhart Tolle or someone else, that
Yeah.
described the ego as letting God out, or it was Wayne Dyer. I don't know who said that, but it's like ego. It means that you are exiting God out.
Mm.
So that's what it means, and I agree, because when you are on that level of ego, you you can't think about anyone else but you,
Yeah.
and you are not open. You are closed, and you don't have energy for anyone else. So in those ceremonies, in those spiritual teachings, it's the opposite. You need to be in an open space with an open mind, and becoming you part of the community, and not your own, uh, let's say, accolades or superiority or things that you can think of. And what kind of experiences have you had when being in that community, in terms of healing someone, or seeing that someone has changed, in terms of also the identity that they had, or things that you have perceived about other people?
Well, I remember when I was talking to Natasha in Colombia, she reminded me something that's like, well, we're speaking about ego, and then I'm about to say this, but she's like, you have to remember your own power, like spiritually, but not in an ego way, just in a way to help people to open those doors with healing, you know? And I've had so many examples where like even my own deep trauma healing and childhood healing has had a profound impact on the people that I had issues with. Like I have this really spiritual therapist. She's amazing, and we she does like the Western therapy, but she's also really, really spiritual, and I just love her. And I had a session with her, and I did this like I was connected to my spirit guides, and I did this deep healing of forgiving myself for this shame I was feeling about a situation with a group of people that I was very disconnected with.
Mm.
And I hadn't talked to them in like maybe 2 years. There was a fractured relationship that was just starting to repair itself, but it was at the very beginning stages. And after that session where I forgave myself and I let go of that shame, the next day that person that was involved in that situation reached out to me and was like, "Hey, come over to my house for dinner." And it was like my first time at their house since we had our falling out. And that was like so beautiful because I saw firsthand how when I let go of my shame around that situation with that person and I forgave myself, it basically automatically reached that person's spirit, and they reached out to me to like build that bridge, you know?
Mm.
That's just like the power that we have when we're connected to our spirit, and when we can forgive ourselves and do that healing and forgive others. It's like, it's words can't even describe how powerful it is to do that kind of healing. So that's like from the self. I'll just talk about that kind of healing, you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's absolutely incredible. I've done some ancestral healing. And then my client the next day said that her brother shifted. She's like, whatever we did, whatever she did on an ancestral level, it shifted the genetics. Like her brother, like he's just like, I'm done, like doing whatever he was doing. And she was just like, and he started speaking to me and it's incredible how, and that's what we were saying earlier, how the healing that we do within ourselves shifts the collective.
For sure. And you just reminded me a couple years ago, I was sundancing. Our Sundance is one of our, they say it's like one of the most powerful ceremonies in terms of connecting to the land and suffering. And the Sundancers, they'll dance for 4 days in the sun and fasting from food and water. And there's also piercing ceremonies that you do for a certain reason, where they cut your flesh and they pierce you with pegs from a tree, and then you go to the Sundance tree and you're doing it for a reason. You're like offering yourself to help someone or to help yourself heal. And I was sundancing for my brother because he has a lot of addiction issues, and so that year I pierced for him to help with his addiction issues. And nobody knew. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my mom. Nobody. The spirits knew, but no physical person knew. And then my mom, when I was done sundancing, she said, I talked to her when I came out, and she said, "Oh, your brother went into treatment today." But like, it didn't stick. But of course, like, that's just like that was like also the power of healing those intergenerational traumas and having your prayers being answered to help others. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I have this client now that whenever she does anything ancestral, like usually her mom will phone her and go, "What have you been doing?" "I've had a dream."
What did you do this time? No, it's like, what did you
She's like, "Mom, calm down. It's okay."
But well, this just speaks louder about the powerful connections that we have, and when we gather in these kind of communities and we release this energy, we concentrate, we focus on one single purpose, we really can do marvelous things that we could be surprised and we couldn't even explain with words, but they happen. And I think, I mean, it's not the same, but this guy, Joe Dispenza, that performs these healing retreats and things like that, many of these things probably they work because of this collective energy that they focus on these single individuals that they have to heal, and the power that they feel and the openness of the meditations that they perform during those days. So it's so much energy focus on one single thing that of course it's going to heal the body of anyone, that is open, of course.
It like really defies what you can believe is real sometimes, what you can see in a healing ceremony. Like, I've seen somebody, they were healing someone with an eagle bone whistle, and I've seen them suck bones out of a person. Like, it's just like your mind, you can't intellectualize it, but it's real. And people can heal cancer using those gifts. And like you said, it's about, you have to believe in it, right? Because if you do that to someone and they're just like not believing in it, then it's not going to help. So it's like your mind working together with your spirit is the key, really.
Yeah. I agree, because like in a lot of the and because I do Reiki, craniosacral therapy, I do somatic healing as well. And part of that is also understanding that as healers, we really provide the environment and the frequency to allow for healing, but it's up to the person that is wanting the healing to really, really want it, and to that extent that they want to go. So what happens is, whether they need this much frequency or that much frequency of, like, the frequency of one person or 50 people is what's needed to shift that. It's really is. And that's why we ask for permission, Because once we have permission, there's usually more of a buy-in or more of an opportunity to allow that person for healing, which is important. So if you're serious about like really letting go of something and you show up to one of those, like I think like the sky is the limit. And the other beautiful thing is that when we get to know who we are spiritually, our biology starts to listen as well, and vice versa, right? So it's really, I believe that our consciousness instructs our matter. So when we change our thought processes, our emotions, and everything else, the moment we identify that energy, the body begins to resonate, relate around it, rather than limitation, which is beautiful from that sense. Going back to this thing of ego, I think that ego, a lot of people tend to reject the ego, but I believe that the ego needs to be educated in a sense. So it really needs to, like, the ego is almost kind of like, you know, we're like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to conquer this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to, like, you know, be this person. The ego goes, and then you start going out and you start expanding and then the ego goes, no, let's keep you safe. But if we release that space of kind of like, okay, why is it that I need to remain small? Why is it like if you do that healing, get into that of like, what are those limitations, right? Where is the fear of being kind of like seen, being heard? Because that's a lot of the times that stops our success. It's like, oh my goodness, yes, I want to do all of this stuff, but I don't want to be seen. You know, it's almost like, you know, I need to be like, hide. Can I just do it in the background? And sometimes you can't, but that's that ego going, no, let's keep you safe. So I think that there's a big part of that ego that needs to be educated and kind of like on, you know what, it's okay, let's just try this. You know, let's just step into this uncomfortable bit, you know, come with me. Like, what is the limitation? Where is the sticky bit that is there? Because I think ego is what helps us to experience life, because I believe that we are an aspect of creativity, experiencing itself from this vessel, from this perspective, which is really what makes us all one. But it's that ego that provides that limitation for it to express through. So if we increase or let go of that limitation, we're able to move further. I think so. There's two ways of looking at that part of ego. So I believe that, yeah, we do need to bring it along with us, help us grow with us, because otherwise it will keep pulling us back or pulling the rug from underneath our feet, going, see, I told you you weren't good enough, you know, or see, you know, whatever it might be, you know. So it's yeah, I think it's important. I don't know. It's another perspective. I'm always learning, so I'm always looking forward to different perspectives.
That makes sense, though, that ego is a safety mechanism, like especially if people haven't healed those deep, like inner childhood wounds. That's how their ego comes out to keep them safe, but it manifests in different ways. But yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, because like even before the trip to Colombia, I was like totally scared, like my ego, you know, like just like totally stepping outside my comfort zone, and I was like super stressed and worried, and that makes sense that would be ego. But when I feel this way, I know I have to do something.
Yeah.
Like for me, because I understand my spiritual path, like I can automatically be like, crap, I really don't want to do this, so I have to. Whereas if there's like sometimes where you get a bad feeling, like it's more like gut, like intuitive, like I'm not supposed to go there. Whereas then I know it's a spiritual thing. But for me, if it's like in the mind, it's like anxiety and worried, then I know like, oh fuck, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I really have to do this. Because I guess it's like separating like the mind, which I think is connected to the ego, from like, if you get a bad feeling in the gut, that's like your intuition and your spirit. So that's how I can like keep myself in check.
I was feeling exactly like you were before Colombia. I'm like, what do I have to offer? Like, really, you know, kind of a thing. And I was like, I don't know, but you have to be there, you know, kind of a thing. So yeah, no.
And you reminded me of something that just happened last week in a therapy session for me also, that I was going back into how my childhood created an identity that was protecting me. I have an identity, well, sometimes it gets out of hyper responsibility. And when I feel that people are not listening and they defy the things that I to tell them just in advice, just in a good sense of this is what will work for you, but you have to try it and do it, and please listen to that and just test it. Then I don't know how to be vulnerable. So my ego gets in the way, and in my case, it goes out as anger. So that's what I understood, that every time I feel that I'm going to be vulnerable, as I don't know how to move in that space, then the ego comes up, and then the anger goes really way up. And that's my defense mechanism, let's say. But I sometimes don't even notice when that happens. So it's just so fast that you need to really understand your story and why you do it to start feeling your body, and how in your body you start sensing these sensations that you are getting warmer, and then it's gonna go up. So you have to stop the ego. No.
That is so insightful. And I feel like I see that with a lot of men, because compared to women, and I'm generalizing, but men have a harder time with being vulnerable. And that's when their ego comes into play. Even like in my spiritual circles with my ceremony people, like men don't like to be vulnerable, and that's why they put up that ego. Whereas women, they like, we've had so much more vulnerability, right? It's like part of our existence compared to men in generally speaking in terms of power dynamics. So we are much more comfortable to be vulnerable, and I feel like that's why a lot more women, like for us, we see a lot more women in healing ceremonies and ceremonies in general, because you have to be vulnerable to connect to your spirit and to heal those things. So that's what, like, you just reminded me of that when you were sharing that.
But I think that that's an intergenerational thing, David. I think it is because, like, if you think about it, like a lot of men, and I know, like, you get told, like, crying is for like sissies, like, you like men don't cry, like, suck it up, like, move on. And then not only that, if you think about our forefathers, they went to war, they fought battles, they're like, the only way you can do that is if you close your heart. It's actually being vulnerable used to be dangerous. So they couldn't afford it. So I think intergenerationally, you start to learn that. And to now open up your heart again and go, it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel like that. It brings in this unsafety for a lot of, like, some of the men that I work with, because it's like, I don't know this place, I've never been allowed to it, and it's dangerous, right, as well. And then you've got women that also expect that as well, so it makes it a little bit harder for men to step into that, and into that. But it takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable. That's the thing, right, that we don't understand. But I think it's intergenerationally that's changing. And I think it's also changing because we're moving very much from the patriarchal system and we're moving into the age of Aquarius, which is now people are stepping into that heart space, into that femininity, into that nurturing, into that caring. So I think it's the hardest because men have had to step into their manliness in such a deep way that they've closed off all of their femininity. I know at least in the West it's like that. So it's just like, no, can't do that. In order for me to kill that person, I cannot have any love or compassion. I have to block all senses of to be able to do that. Right. And I think this is why the world is also in so much chaos as well. Right.
Totally.
Yes, and well, it just speaks really clear when you understand these connections, because when you feel this vulnerability, I mean, in my case, when I'm sick, that's the only way that my ego stays out of the way, because I don't have energy to do anything. I need to be taken care of, let's say, and that's the only way or moment where I allow myself to be taken care of, because otherwise I my role, my identity is always the one that has to take care of other people and supervise and be in control and all of those things. So it's really difficult. And once I understood that, I said, well, now I will have to learn how to lower my defenses and let my ego out in those moments. No.
Very cool. But it's also okay to be angry. Angry comes to tell you that there's something's not right.
Mostly
Right?
with companies that don't do their service. That's what we were talking about.
Anger is fire. It like transmutes, it transcends. It's how you direct it that's important.
And that was such a huge part of my healing journey too, because for the longest time, until like 2 years ago, that's when I started like allowing myself to be angry. Because growing up, I never had the space to be angry. It just wasn't part of my childhood, and that was such a huge source of healing for me to deal with anger in a positive way. So and which I never even thought of before that.
Yeah, I think all emotions are valid. So for me, I was like a grumpy teenager. And I remember there was one day where I was like, okay, I'm done with being angry. And then that shifted. And then I was like calm, cool, and collected. And then when I felt pregnant with the hormones, I used to get really angry. And I was like, oh my God, I feel alive. This is awesome. Nobody's messing with me. I'm saying no to things that I don't want, you know?
The testosterone is making now their way up. It's really, really funny. But once we understand these ancestral also roles that we have had for many centuries, let's say, at least, of course it's a dangerous territory to don't understand and to step on those new ways of being and let your old identity dissolve, let's say. No. How did you deal with that? Talking about this identity, how did you help or understood or cope with that dissolution of your old identity?
I don't even know if it's anything that I ever like had to deal with. I think I just fully embraced it, honestly. But what I did have to deal with was other people's expectations of me to be that old person. And I'm still dealing with that.
Yeah.
Like people close to me they can't relate to me like they used to because I'm not on the same path as I was before. So I think that's more what I have to deal with is other people's expectations.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Well, it's because you're not the same person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people expect you to be the same person because it keeps them safe. And you're like, wait a minute.
Especially when they're not doing the work.
Especially when they're not
That's
doing the work.
what's the hardest is a lot of people in my close circle they're not on the same spiritual healing path as me. So they don't it's like their subconscious, that hurt part of them, their ego is like, no, like you come back down here now. Yeah.
And I think a lot of that time is because you're also mirroring to them the possibilities that they're not ready to step into as well. So it becomes almost like a no. You just be what makes me comfortable, right? You keep being an eagle in the chicken coop because we're all chickens, so we have to stay here, right?
Yeah.
Until you look up and you see the eagle flying and going, oh my goodness, I have that wingspan, I can do that, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. Until we realize we're all egos, just pretending to be chickens.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
There is a very, very good movie that I just remember that is one of my favorites, that it's a romantic comedy, but it reflects a lot these roles and these expectations of people to be the same And once you get into the journey of healing, whatever it is, in terms of if it's spiritual or if it's just health related, you detach from the same group of people that you already have, no? And it's with Barbara Streisand and Jeff Bridges, I think he is the other actor. And the name is The Mirror Has Two Faces. It's an old movie. It's more or less from the 90s, but it's really, really good. And it depicts mostly how women are expected to fulfill certain roles, also talking about the men and how we deal with vulnerability. Now, talking about women and how they deal with this abuse of power many times, or that they have to obey and just respect their role. It talks about that and how when you change, you don't know what to do in terms of the external world, not with your own self, because you, as you mentioned, probably you don't deal with your own questions or doubts or challenges, but you deal more with the outer world. No?
Yeah. Crazy. Crazy.
Yeah.
So if you were to sum up a conversation,
Yes.
how would you do it, Jamie?
Our
What is the
conversation-
advice? Instead of summing it up, what is your advice to the youth? Because the sooner you start doing your healing, the better life becomes, I think.
Yeah. My advice to the youth is to just go for it. Don't be afraid. Find people that are gonna support you in your circle and help you to discover who you are in your spirit. Because for me, like, that was such a big part of the beginning of my journey, was like, I'll say elders, connecting to elders, because that's what really helped me in the beginning when I was like so lost. Just to have a really good support network that's gonna help you to discover who you are, because it's hard. Like, you can't do it on your own when you're so disconnected to your spirit. That's how I feel. But just to have faith, because we all have a spiritual purpose, we all have gifts, and we can all ignite that fire within our spirits if we have faith and we do the work.
And to all the old people like David and I,
It's the same message, really.
it's never too late.
No, you're never late. No way. It's like every day that we're born, every day we have the breath of life is like a new beginning, where we can do anything that we need to do to help discover our spiritual path.
Beautiful. Love it. Thank you so, so much. I really appreciate you sharing your
good to
knowledge
talk
and
to you.
wisdom. Yeah, thank you for sharing your journey with us. Is there any way people can get a hold of you if they want to know more or
Well, I'm gonna plug the Turtle Lodge because that's where I'm a
please?
helper of. It's a Indigenous education ceremonial center in Saugeen First Nation, Manitoba. Anishinaabe elder Dave Kershane Jr., who passed away almost 4 years ago now, he founded, his spirit name was Leading Earthman, Nigani Aki Enene. He founded the Turtle Lodge as a place for healing for all people, not just Indigenous people. And we welcome all people from all walks of life in our ceremony. We have a website. It's pretty outdated, but we have a Facebook page that we use like to update on our events, and we have a beautiful elders council from across Canada, and Antoorko is on our elders council. He's an Inca knowledge keeper from Peru. And so, yeah, you can reach out. I run the email. So if you want to email there, it's the turtle lodge at gmail.com. Yeah, that's how, because the
Beautiful.
Turtle Lodge is awesome. We have like so many YouTube resources of elders sharing ancestral teachings on our YouTube page. I think it's the Turtle Lodge YouTube page too. But yeah, it's that's like so special to me, and that's part of my identity, is being a helper at the Turtle Lodge. And when I made that commitment to the late elder Dave Christian Jr., it's like as long as I'm asked to be a helper there, I will be. And I take that spiritual commitment really seriously because it's such a beautiful place that's helping to heal a lot of people and helping them to get connected to the land, but also their spirits. So, yeah.
That's important for sure. We'll put all your handles in the descriptions as well.
Yeah, sounds good.
And then we'll post it on our YouTube channel, which is the Conscious Health podcast, and David's Facebook, and I'll place it on mine, which is Raising the Vibes as well. So you can find Jamie and the Turtle Lodge everywhere.
Woo!
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Good
Such
to
an
meet you,
inspiration.
David, and good to talk to you, Natasha.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
I
everyone.
can talk about this for hours.
Okay, we'll have to have you back.
Alrighty. All right.
Thank you. And we will listen to each other on our next episode. If you have questions or if you want to reach out to Jamie, just click on the links that we are going to add later on. Thank you. Bye.